listening to the Positive Professional Podcast with your host, me, Tracy Yvonne. This podcast is a weekly conversation about all things mental health, self-care, and wellness. And there'll be sprinkles of positivity, mindfulness, and guided meditations. Welcome back to Season 6, Episode 11. Today I'm diving into a topic that cuts deep and touches many of us, often without us even realizing it. And that's breaking the cycle of seeking external validation. This episode is not about judgment. It's about liberation. It's about understanding where this cycle begins, how it shows up in our everyday choices, and how we can begin the transformative work of rooting our worth from within, instead of reaching outward for confirmation. So take a breath, center yourself, and let's walk this journey together. And let's start at the beginning. What exactly is external validation? Simply put, it's when we look to others, parents, partners, peers, social media followers, co-workers, for approval, praise, or affirmation to feel worthy, valuable, or good enough. External validation can sound like, do you think I did a good job? Was I okay? Did I look okay? Should I post this? Or why didn't they compliment me? Now here's the truth. There's nothing inherently wrong with wanting to be seen, appreciated, or affirmed. We are social beings. We're wired for connection. Validation can feel supportive, grounding, and even healing, especially if we've been dismissed or devalued in the past. But here's where it becomes problematic. When our self-worth becomes dependent on it. When we can't feel good about ourselves unless someone else tells us so. External validation becomes a substitute for self-trust. And once that dynamic sets in, we often find ourselves on a hamster wheel, chasing likes, approvals, gold stars, or attention, without ever feeling full. Because the truth is, nothing external can satisfy what must come from within. Let's go deeper. Where does this cycle start? Often it begins in childhood. Many of us were only praised when we achieved something, when we got an A, when we were quiet and polite, when we did what we were told. We may have learned even unconsciously that love was conditional. That sounds like, you're such a good girl when you behave. You're my star when you win. Or why can't you be more like your sibling? When we internalize these messages, we begin to believe that our value is tied to performance, obedience, or perfection. We develop what psychologist Carl Rogers called conditions of worth, the belief that we're only worthy if we meet certain criteria. Add to that cultural and racial messaging that says you have to be twice as good to be seen. Gender expectations that demand self-sacrifice or silence, and social media's constant highlight reels. And you have the perfect storm for externalized identity. So by the time we reach adulthood, many of us have no idea when the applause fades. So what happens when we stay in this cycle? The cost is high, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. In the next segment, I'm going to share some common symptoms of chronic external validation seeking. Here are some common symptoms of chronic external validation seeking. The first one is people pleasing. You say yes when you want to say no. You bend your boundaries to avoid disappointing others. Overachievement and burnout. You feel like you constantly have to prove your worth. Productivity becomes a substitute for self-worth. Imposter syndrome. Even when you accomplish great things, you doubt your success because you don't feel it internally. Codependent relationships. You define your self-esteem by how others treat or respond to you. Anxiety and perfectionism. You fear making mistakes because your sense of identity is built on others' perceptions. And fear of judgment. You feel stuck or afraid to try new things unless you're sure others will approve. This cycle keeps us in performance mode. We curate our lives to appear successful, happy, or flawless, while silently feeling like we're never enough. But let me say this clearly. Your worth is not something you earn. It's something you honor. So how do we break the cycle? This shift doesn't happen overnight. But with awareness, intention, and practice, we can return to ourselves. So here are 5 core practices that help recenter self-validation. Inner dialogue awareness. Start noticing your self-talk. Is your inner voice harsh, critical, or dismissive? If you only speak to yourself in criticism, of course, you'll need others to tell you you're okay. Start saying, I see myself. I am proud of how I showed up. I validate my own experience. Next is value-based living. Ask yourself what truly matters to me. What do I believe in? And what kind of life am I trying to live? When we align ourselves with our values, we create internal anchors. Validation starts coming from integrity, not applause. Pause before performing. When you feel the urge to seek praise or post for approval, pause. Ask yourself, what need am I trying to meet right now? Can I give that to myself first? Maybe it's love. Maybe it's reassurance. Maybe it's belonging. And all of these are valid needs, but start practicing meeting them from within. Create without witness. Do something just for you. Dance in your room. Cook a beautiful meal. Or finish a project and say, I'm proud of me even if no one sees it. That's the power of self-acknowledgement. And last is somatic grounding and breathwork. External validation often triggers a fight or flight mode. We feel that we must be chosen, approved, or applauded. Grounding techniques like breathwork, stretching, or placing your hand on your heart can anchor you back into safety, reminding you that you don't need to perform to be loved. Now, if you are able to, I want you to grab a piece of paper and a pen, or you can just reflect as I ask you a few questions. When did you first learn that your worth was tied to how others saw you? Who are you when no one is watching? What does it feel like when you validate yourself? And how can you remind yourself that you are enough, even when you're not being praised? Now, you can pause this episode here if you want to journal now, or you can come back to it later. But what's important is to give yourself time to sit with these reflections. Now, let's speak some truth to our spirits. I want you to repeat after me. I am whole even without applause. I honor my journey even when no one sees it. I am allowed to take up space without proving myself. I trust myself to know what I need. My worth is not on trial. I validate me. And let these affirmations settle into your body. You can continue to say them out loud and write them down, but just make sure that when you speak them, that they become the truth that you live. And as I close today, I want to remind you of this. There is nothing wrong with wanting connection, affirmation, or love. But when we make those things a source of our own self-worth, we disconnect from the one relationship that matters the most, the one that we have with ourselves. You are already enough, not because of what you achieve, how you look, or who likes your posts. You are enough because you exist. Healing from external validation is not about ego. It's about coming home to your truth, your values, your joy, and your voice. So thank you for joining me on this journey. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who you feel that might need it too. Until next time, be kind to yourself, speak gently to your heart, and remember, you are your own greatest source of validation. Thanks for listening and supporting this podcast. And make sure you're clicking the like and subscribe button. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Stay safe, be well, and don't forget to be the best version of you.